Scream 5, as I'm going to call it, is the newest installment in the Scream franchise, and this movie takes place 25 years after the events of the first movie, in which we see a new Ghostface killer terrorizing a new group of teenagers. As always guys, before we go any further, I want you to hit that subscribe button so you can follow this channel, hit the alarm bell as well so you get notifications when the video is going to be uploaded, and give this video a like as well to help the channel grow. I love the Scream movies. The Scream movies are more satirical than they are horror. With the brilliant and expert direction of Wes Craven and the clever writing of Kevin Williamson, you got a host of films that were both meta and both satirical, but it was very witty and very funny at the same time. These movies were not considered horror, but they were very entertaining. And the first two were landmark films for me. Scream 2 I'll put in that category of a sequel that was better than the original. And each installment of the franchise was just as entertaining as the last. We sadly lost Wes Craven, and when it was discussed that another Scream film would be made, but it would have a completely new director and a new writing team, that worried me, but also excited me at the same time. It can either be to the detriment of a movie or to the benefit of it. So you got the directing duo of Matt Bettinelli and Tyler Gillett, who directed 2019's Ready or Not. And they reunited with the writing duo, who also assisted them with that project, James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. And James Vanderbilt was responsible for writing one of my favourite films that was released in 2007, the brilliant Zodiac. So he brings that mysterious element to Scream. And while Scream 5, I wouldn't say it's the best installment of the franchise, it has all the hallmarks that make a Scream film great. The kills are just as gory, there's a lot of twists and turns in this movie, and it's got great direction and great pacing as well. The problem with the Scream films, especially after part 2 onwards, was the fact that they started to become a bit formulaic. And you started to know what was going to happen before it actually did happen. And that was one of the key things that Scream always used to mock, was how films could be so predictable. And that was certainly the case of this movie here. And also the rationale for the killers. When you understand what their motives were, they start to become a little bit more preposterous. Whereas the first two made sense, parts 3, 4 and 5 onwards, they became a little bit ludicrous. But Scream certainly honours Wes Craven's legacy, and it keeps to the tone and the standard of the movies that he did. In terms of the tension, and in terms of the chills. And the Ghostface killer in this movie is just as menacing as ever before. This movie takes place 10 years after Scream 4, and we have a new protagonist. And this is for a new generation of horror fans. It was marketed as Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell's movie, but they are not in the movie that much. In fact, they only show up in the latter half of the film. If you want to talk about legacy characters, which this film references, David Arquette, who plays Dewey, he shows up in the early stages of the film and he assists our main protagonist with trying to locate the killer. And I will certainly say that performance-wise, David Arquette gives his best performance to date as Dewey. We see a broken down character who is less wisecracking and more depressed. And I would certainly say that Scream is a situation of art imitating life. Because in the movie, Dewey has separated from Gale, and that was what happened with David Arquette and Courtney Cox in real life. These two actually have divorced. One thing about the Scream movies is that they are very self-aware. They know what they're doing, they know what they're poking fun at, they know not to take themselves too seriously, and Scream 5 is no different. Scream 5 has a lot of jumps, has a lot of chills, and as is common amongst many of the Scream films, it has a lot of misdirections, where you're trying to work out who is actually the killer. I would certainly say that this Scream installment is not as funny as the previous Scream installments. And that comes with when you've got a new set of writers who've taken over the writing reins of the movie. And also I would say that some of the characters amongst the teenage group are not as engaging as we've seen in previous Scream installments. But our main protagonists, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, these two were absolutely superb. And to take the mantle of Neve Campbell's character was a tough job, because Neve Campbell established herself in the first 3 Scream films. Not so much in the 4th film, because the main protagonist was someone different, but they certainly own these characters, and they were very compelling. And I thought that Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, their camaraderie, and their on-screen chemistry, and just their presence, I thought they were brilliant. Scream 5 is very meta, so not only does it reference horror films, but for a new generation, it references a new slate of horror films and the trend that has become common within these new slate of horror films. Also talks about how Hollywood has run out of ideas, talks about other sequels, so there's a lot of nods here. But it does get a bit stale, and it's like, okay, we've seen this before. But Scream 5, I had a great time watching it. I would say that Scream 1 and 2 are still my favourite. And it honours not only Wes Craven, because there is a character in this movie called Wes, but it also nods to other horror films as well. But as a movie, I would say that it is very entertaining. So if you've got some time to spare, I'd highly recommend that you give this movie a watch. So I'll give this film a very strong 7 out of 10. So guys, that's my review. As always, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button so you can follow this channel. Hit the alarm bell as well so you get notifications when my video is going to be uploaded. Give this video a like as well. Leave your comment with whether you've actually seen Scream and what do you think about it. And what's your favourite installment out of the Scream franchise? Comment down below and I shall see you all on the next film review. Take care.